Toucan Play That Game is proudly sponsored by NiceGameShop.com, the place to go for rare and unusual Asian games. Hi, I'm Michael. Take a seat while I talk about the differences between Above and Below and Near and Far. Now, Near and Far is actually kind of the spiritual successor to Above and Below and is set in the same world. And there is crossover stuff to connect the two as well. For example, the characters from Near and Far can be used as an expansion to Above and Below. And in the Kickstarter, they had a new adventure book for Above and Below as well. So, which one should you get, Above and Below or Near and Far? Well, it all depends what you're wanting from the game. You see, Near and Far is an excellent 4-player worker placement game with added kind of create your own story. The kind of choose your own adventure. That's what it's got. They've both got that choose your own adventure. But this one is worker placement. The other thing you'll go for Near and Far for is if you want the campaign play. You see, the choose your own adventure stuff in this introduces a load of campaign. You can play through campaigns for each of the characters, which are kind of mini campaigns, but you can also do a big campaign where you're playing through like 12 maps. Now, Above and Below doesn't have that campaign, so if you're after that kind of campaign where you're able to have your own character, level it up and improve it, gain new skills, gain stuff that connects from one kind of quest adventure that you go on to the next, you're not going to find that in Above and Below. However, Above and Below isn't a worker placement game in the same way that Near and Far is. Above and Below is a worker allocation game and resource management game. What you're doing in Above and Below is collecting resources, putting them in your town in order to get victory points. That's a big part of it, as well as building up kind of buildings in your town. Near and Far is all about that exploration. It's the way you end the game is by putting tents out, and that's going to get you points. Then you're building up collecting these artifacts, which are kind of quests which you need to get certain resources in order to fulfill. But there's much fewer resources and there's much less focus on that resource management side of it compared to Above and Below. Now, for me, what that means is that Above and Below is a better game for 2 players because the scaling on Near and Far doesn't quite work. So what you have is an excellent 4-player worker placement game. So if you're going to be playing with 4 players all the time, I'd really would say just go for Near and Far. But if you're not, if you're going to be playing 2 players mostly, then actually this is a more enjoyable game. The only issue with it is that you're going to run out of those adventures, those encounters to do. Because, okay, there's like 100 or so in the book, but you're going to have them come up. So you're going to go, I've had this one before. That's kind of the one shame with this. However, if you've got both, then is there room for them both? Well, I think if you had them both, you'd use this for 2-player. You will grow tired of this eventually, but I think there is, with the number of encounters there, the order they can happen, and with the fact that the base game is a good game without even factoring in that kind of choose your own adventure storytelling, then it is a good game to have. Near and Far, if you're just playing 2-player, I can't recommend hugely. It will still be good for doing that kind of character mode and having the story side of it. But the game that's there feels a bit lackluster. There's just not enough competition on spaces going on and enough interaction really between the players at 2-player compared to the 4-player. It's designed as a 4-player game and it feels as a 4-player game and is best as a 4-player game. So again, this has a limited shelf life because of that campaign play. Once you've played through the campaigns, and that's really where the game's at its best, is with the campaigns, you're then left with the arcade mode. Now, the arcade mode is just random cards, and then you no longer have that story element that really makes these games stand out. The choose your own adventure, you still have a choice there, but there's no flavour to it. It's just do this challenge, do that challenge, without the flavour text there, the paragraphs of text that really draw you into the world and the story. So they're kind of equal on that footing, and therefore what it comes down to is if you want campaign play, you're going for near and far. If you want to just play two player, you're going for above and below. And eventually you're going to get bored of either of them, but it's going to take you a long time. I mean, if you talk about doing all the characters and the campaign play in near and far, you're talking a good 30-40 games. And you're not actually going to do all the different encounters. You're only going to do a certain number depending on the number of players. So there is definitely scope for a bit of replay there as well. So yeah, what it comes down to is the campaign and 4-player, you want this. Otherwise, I think this is the better game for 2 people above and below. I do hope you've enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you have, thank you for watching, and bye for now.